Hello everyone, Jim from Ohio here, and as you can tell by the pink walls behind me, I'm starting to make some progress with the pole barn. It's actually turning into Barbie's barn. It's turning so pink. Let me show you what I've done so far. I'll tell you some of the little tips that I've learned along the way and what the next steps are. So turning the camera around here, I did get all the way down to where this garage door is here. That's the back door on the barn where I drive my lawn tractor out, and I had to disassemble some shelves there, and to do that I also had to disconnect some electrical wiring that were running through those shelves. So that was definitely a slowdown. I think this part was done and this part was done before, but since we last got together on this, I've been able to complete this entire wall right here, and I'm now working up in that corner where I have the same situation. I have some shelves up there and the electrical wiring runs through the shelves. So the idea is to enclose this half of the barn that I'm in right now, because that's where my mini split is. And what I'll do is I'll limit all of the activities in the barn over to this half until next year, when I'll go ahead and start disassembling some of the stuff over in that part of the barn and insulating everything over there. I'm glad that I picked up all of the insulation when I did. I've been buying this at the local Menards store, and they had the best price on it with or without their 11% rebate. Well, as of Thanksgiving, they are no longer doing their rebate until sometime after the start of the new year. But on top of that, because it is winter heating season, I guess that's a sign that they can go ahead and jack the prices up. But back when I bought this stuff, this is the 1-inch foam that I'm going to use to form the ceiling in this barn. But when I bought this stuff, it was, I think, $14.88 a sheet or something like that. And this is the 1-inch tongue and groove stuff. It's got a groove on one side and a tongue down on the other side. And it's 1 inch, and it has a rating of R5. So it's not a huge value, but it'll definitely make a big difference as opposed to the open roof or open ceiling that I have going on in the barn right now. But when I bought this, like I said, it was like $14.88 a sheet. Well, I looked today just out of curiosity, and this stuff has gone up to over $28 a sheet. And so I did buy, I think I got enough to do this side of the barn when I bought this. Now I'm down to only 2 sheets of the 1.5-inch stuff, which is the R7.5, which is what I used in the walls to fill in the voids or the cavities between the support timbers. But I am going to need some more of this as soon as I begin on that side of the barn. But these 2 sheets right here are enough to go ahead and get that corner done up here, as well as I do have the top of the garage door to do, and the openings, the voids that I filled in the area up here at the top. I'm going to be doing the same thing on this side of the barn. And then hopefully I'll have enough to do this area right here on this side of the garage door. But again, I'll have to disassemble that shelf to do that. But as far as the 1-inch foam that I'm putting up into the ceiling, let me show you what I did to get it up there. So I'm trying to avoid cutting this. It's not heavy, but it is awkward to work with a 4x8 sheet like this, and I'm doing this project by myself. So what I ended up doing was I put a temporary strip that I just put 2 screws, one right there and one right here, to form the 1-inch area that the foam is going to go up against this support timber. And that's just to put it, to support it temporarily until I can get it permanently mounted. And I did the same thing along that edge. I put a temporary board here. And for right now, I'm just holding this piece up with these 2 clamps and these boards right here. Now, to make matters a little more difficult with this first piece, I had this diagonal piece right here that I did have to cut a section out up there. So I had to hold it up there, kind of measure and calculate where that was to be cut out, and then take it back down and cut that out. Well, and then I found out that over here, the foam was overlapping slightly. Now, it was my understanding that this was supposed to be 8 feet. Each of these sections were 4 feet, but it did overlap about 1 1/8 inches over here. So I did have to cut a section off here to give me enough of this rafter to lay the next sheet on that'll go right here. But it looks like everything is in place. It looks like it's going to cinch up there pretty good. And now to hold that up there, what I'm going to be doing is I picked these things up right here. And what this is, it's just a piece of galvanized metal, and it has some sharp fingers that are on it that get pressed into the surface of the foam. And then there's a screw that runs right down through the center of there, and I'll drive that screw up through the foam, and this should give it enough support to hold it up there. And then I'll just have to make sure that I stagger them right here with where they'll go onto this timber right here to leave room for the next piece of this stuff to mount in this direction right here. And then obviously the tongue and groove will help me line everything up from this piece over to this piece. I will go ahead and move this support board down this way. However, I won't need this, hopefully, because I've got the tongue and groove section that should hold everything in place on this side once I get my clamps out of the way. Now, I will have to work around these lights. When the guy that was here before me installed some of the lights, he did have them suspended below the rafters, and then some of the other lights that I added, I kind of did the same thing that he did. So I'll have to work around those and figure out how I'm going to get those lights mounted. I do also have some electrical outlets that when I come up to those, I'll have to probably cut around the foam so that I can keep all of my outlets in place for both the lights and just the ceiling mount electrical outlets. But let's see what else. As far as cutting this stuff, I'm still using the handsaw. Let me grab that and I'll show you what that looks like once again for those who missed the first video that I did. I'm just using it's a back cut saw that does have it's a very tight tooth pattern, but the teeth are longer than an average multi-purpose handsaw, and this is just a little short stubby saw. But I find that this does work really well for cutting the foam. It's not perfectly smooth, but at the same time there is no big chunks that are being torn out. It does make just regular dust sized particles like this. But anyway, that's what I've got going on here. So I'll go ahead and press on and then come back after I've got a little bit more of this done to let you know if I've learned anything else along the process. Now, one other thing, once I have these up there, in addition to the round galvanized pieces, what I plan on doing is kind of a board and batten ceiling. So I picked these up. These are, I think they're 1.5 inches wide by a 1/2 inch thick. And this is just primed MDF. And I picked these up at Menards also, and each of these is 12 feet long. And what I plan on doing is everywhere that I have a seam, I'm going to run one of those boards. And just to keep things consistent, and rather than having big 4x8 rectangles formed out of that, later on I will come back and fill in some of these sections right here where there will be a seam this way, but there will not be a seam along this rafter. But what I'll do is, just so I've got support in the middle, so that any air pressure from opening and closing the doors or the wind blowing doesn't possibly pull the foam through those galvanized discs. What I'll do is I'll also have the boards for the board and batten system that'll help give this foam some extra support. So let me go ahead and try to get more of this stuff up, and we'll come back and show you the progress. Well, this project's really taken a lot longer than I expected. I kind of figured that the ceiling would go pretty quick, but like anything else, it has not. Some of the really difficult parts working by myself are just the panels are not heavy, but they are awkward, being 4 foot by 8 foot. And then on top of that, because of the way I want to finish this, I'm having to do some additional planning that I originally didn't count on. I was able to remove the supports for the garage door frame here. And what I did, I temporarily took those down. Of course, I left the door closed while I was doing that. And then I mounted the piece of insulation, and then I determined where the support, the metal pieces would be for the garage door support. And then I had to draw the outline of where I needed to cut my holes, and then go ahead and do just that, and then reinstall those. The other thing that I had to do was with all of the electrical outlets that I have. And so I've got an electrical outlet there, and those are for my fluorescent lights. I had a light string there, a light string there. I do have another electrical outlet down there that I'm going to have to work with next, but then when I get over to this side, I'm going to have the same thing. But like any electrical outlet, when you normally mount that, you're going to mount it directly to the frame, the support structure, the 2x4, in this case the 2x6, which would have put it right off of my line. And I do have an extra outlet here. That is the ones that my lights are on are wired to a light switch, so I can flip on the lights, this half of the barn or this half of the barn, and turn all the lights on at once. However, this outlet right here is not attached to that switch. So this is the outlet that I'm going to be running my projection TV off of, and so that's on a separate circuit. But as I mentioned before, I am going to cover up all of my lines and all of my screws with a board to form a board and batten system. If I would have left the outlets attached directly to the 2x4 or the 2x6, they would have sat directly off of that line. They would have been another 1.5 inches in, and it would have been blocking where the board for the board and batten will be. So what I ended up doing was I disconnected all of the boxes. They were attached by nail to the structure, and I just moved those off, and I attached another 2x4 spacer to move it 1.5 inches in the direction I wanted it to go. Now, the other thing that I did was those boxes were all flush with the bottom of the rafter. because when those were wired in, there were no plans of closing the ceiling in. So I did go ahead and lower those an inch also, so that when I do go to finish the ceiling, the cover plate for those outlets will sit flush with the ceiling surface. So just a lot of additional planning and unexpected things, and being a 10-foot ceiling, lots of trips up and down the ladder, dropping things, picking them back up, remeasuring, and it's just been a real pain. So I'm now ready to put the center pieces of insulation, which should actually go really quick because I have no obstacles at all. And but before I do that, because I know that my projection TV screen is going to be on this wall right here, and I know that that's the outlet and the projector is going to be mounted in the center here, what I'm going to go ahead and do at this point is I'm going to go pick up a couple pieces of conduit, and I'm going to run the conduit down to this wall, and then have a box that I can drop it down this wall. And at some point when I put my screen there, I'll probably, just to keep, because I am going to also be using this as a workshop, I want to have it so that I can close the screen when it's not in use, so it doesn't collect any dust or get damaged in any way. So I plan on mounting a box on the wall to enclose that, and within that box I'll probably have some game consoles for the grandkids, as well as things like a Roku or the Fire TV stick, but I'll run some HDMI cables up through that conduit. And then I think I'll go ahead while the ceiling's open, I'm going to put a 2x4, maybe a couple of 2x4s across here, just in case later on I want to build a box into the ceiling to have other things stored closer to where that projector will be. But just trying to think about everything and take care of it before I enclose this. Well, we'll be back in a little bit after I get a little more of this work done and show you the progress. All right, so I have a conduit now in the ceiling, and that's going to be for my projector TV wiring. I'll be able to plug it in right there. The HDMI cables will come down through the conduit, and somewhere in this area, centered on that wall right there, I'll attach a ceiling mount for it. Now, while I was up there doing that, I got to thinking, you know, what happens if later on I need to access the rafter portion of my barn? And if I totally enclose it in, I'm not going to be able to do that. So what I decided to do, just as a precautionary step, is I went ahead and put a catwalk in, just laid some 2x4s down on top of the rafter, and then put a 2-foot wide section of 1/2-inch MDF plywood that runs all the way from this end, and it stops there before my loft. But what I'll do is when I finish the ceiling over on that side, I'll extend it over into the loft area, and then I'll have a door, a cutout, so that I'll always have an access, but can close that off so that all my heat doesn't escape through the roof area, because we do have a ridge vent up there. But yeah, I'm glad that I thought of this catwalk before enclosing everything in. So that's where we are. I'm now at a point where I can go ahead and finish putting up the rest of this 1-inch insulation. And so wish me luck. Here we go. Back up the ladder again. So here we are a few days later, and I was able to get all of the ceiling that I intend to put up for now. So as I mentioned before, this is a 30 by 40 barn, and so I've got about 2/3 of it completed. I'm not gonna get started on the area where I store all of my garden supplies and tractor and all my woodworking items right away. I do have to wait. It seems like with the end of the season, or when actually the start of the heating season, it seems like they really jack the price of this stuff up quite a bit. And when I bought it, it was on sale. I got it pretty reasonable, but it looks like it's gone up probably 35% since then. So I'm going to hold off until it either drops down in price or goes on sale, or some kind of rebates are offered. And then I do plan on doing that side as well. But so the goal for right now is, since I've got this portion of the ceiling up, I'm going to build a roll-up tarp wall right around this area that I can lower, and that way it should help hold the heat from my mini split system in this area of the barn, which will allow me to work through the winter. And so I'm going to start getting the walls. As I pointed out before, I do have plywood on this wall, and now I'm going to go ahead and start putting some MDF plywood on the remaining walls where you see the pink insulation. So that's the project for today. Then once I can get that done and get my tarp wall built, then the next goal is to start building cabinets and shelves to start storing all my junk and try to get organized a little better. But I think I'm going to wrap up this video since the ceiling part is done. And I do plan on later on painting this, as well as putting some boards across to do like a board and batten, or batten and board, however you want to say it, pattern. And that should offer some additional support to hold up the pink insulation. I'm not worried about it coming down at this point, because those little round things with the screws are holding pretty well. My concern is over time with temperature fluctuations and air pressure fluctuations as doors are opened and closed. It could cause some suction, or it could cause some vibration up there. And so I think that the boards I put across will just add that much more stability. It should also help if later on I decide to put additional insulation above the foam board insulation. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up now, and I'll come back later on and do another video after I've got more work done on the walls, or after I've started putting the board and batten up on the ceiling. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you've learned something, or enjoyed at least watching what I've learned through this process. This is Jim with Jim Jenny, Ohio. If you don't mind, please give me a thumbs up if you learned something from this video, and please like, subscribe, or even share with your friends. Thanks, and take care. Enjoy your week.